Thank you all for inviting me. I'm going to talk today about the new school of computing, data sciences, and physics and discuss what the vision is and the priorities, and also want to talk about ways that we can continue to collaborate. As Ed points out, we've been doing a lot of fun things together so far, but I think the best is yet to come. I'm going to try not to keep this too long, but if you want to hear a longer version of this talk, there's a video that I have up on my YouTube playlist. I've got literally scores of videos about generative AI there. And so you can get the long version if you'd like, the extended play version, as it were. I'm going to talk today briefly about my background at William & Mary and my history with the place. I graduated in 1984 with an undergrad degree and 1986 with a graduate degree, both in sociology. That was my picture from 1982. You can tell I had a lot more hair back in those days. This is one from a couple months ago, right before the TAC lecture. So it's been a great experience coming back after being gone for 40 years. It turns out that my mom graduated in 1960, and my great uncle was a professor at the School of Education from 1923 to 1930. So I have over 100 years of experience and relationships with William & Mary. So it's great to be back. I'm also going to talk about the vision of our school and how you guys can help shape what we're doing. And you'll understand in a second why you can help shape it, because a lot of our priorities relate to things that are heavily IT centric and heavily centric on modern, new, cool technologies like automation and AI and so on. And then I'm going to talk at the very end about how we need to motivate our students and our faculty to have both foundational knowledge and AI fluency in order to more responsibly and effectively navigate and shape the future of higher education and, of course, the future of William & Mary and the future of their careers and our careers. So let me just give you a quick overview of my background. The picture on the left is me when I was a senior here at William & Mary. The picture in the middle was me getting my PhD in computer science from the University of California, Irvine. And then the picture on the right is me when I was the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation at the Pentagon last year, which was a presidential appointed, Senate confirmed position. I mentioned before I got my Bachelor of Arts and my Master of Arts in Sociology here at William & Mary through a wild series of events, largely having to do with working as the ID checker at what was then Blow Gym's weight room, what's now Blow Hall. It used to be a gym. I managed to get admitted into a computer science PhD program at the University of California, Irvine. And I always tell people that I have the best of both worlds. I have a liberal arts and sciences degree from William & Mary and a PhD in computer science. And it's that combination that's been so effective and so important for my career trajectory. And I think you'll see that reinforced in the discussions we're about to have about the way forward at William & Mary. After graduating with my PhD, I was a professor at various places, Washington University in St. Louis, Vanderbilt University. I went back to University of California, Irvine for a bit. And then, of course, I most recently came here about 7 months ago to William & Mary. I've also done a lot of government work. I was at the Pentagon, as I mentioned last year. I was on the U.S. Air Force's Scientific Advisory Board. I was a program manager at DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And then I've also done a lot of work with industry and federally funded research and development centers as the chief technology officer at various places. So I have a broad range of experience, and I've also written lots and lots of software. My career path underscores several things: the value of a William & Mary liberal arts education, which really does prepare you for anything; having great mentors along the way, especially those people I met in the weight room who were faculty in physics and computer science at William & Mary, who helped write recommendation letters for me to get into graduate school when I had a sociology background. And then, of course, getting a PhD, which I always tell grad students who are on the fence: should we keep going? Should we drop out? Should we stop with a master's? You really can't predict at the time the value of getting that advanced degree, because it opens doors that otherwise would just never be open. So let's switch over and talk about my vision of our new school. As you probably know, if you've been walking around new campus and near Swem Library, there's a big construction project going on. It's getting close to completion. We hope to be able to move into the Integrated Science Center 4 building, November-ish timeframe. I think classes will probably start in January, knock on wood. So it's an exciting time, and we've got 4 departments that are coming together to make this new school. We have computer science, data science, applied science, and physics. And the main reason these 4 departments were clustered together to make the new school is because there's some of the departments on campus that are doing a lot of cutting edge, externally funded research. And I'll talk a little bit more later about why that's so relevant, even at an institution like William & Mary that justifiably prides itself on amazing undergraduate teaching. So we'll talk a bit about that, because I think that's an important dimension to understand. The first thing that we're doing, of course, is we're continuing to foster the wonderful foundation values of the classic William & Mary liberal arts and sciences education. Something else we're doing, and this is really important nowadays, is we're creating holistic initiatives to prepare our students to be competitive in an increasingly complex career field and professional field. We also want to continue to accelerate support for and recognize the great contributions of the cutting edge research that's being done by our existing faculty and new faculty that we may hire. And this is kind of William & Mary's best kept secret in a way. There's really great research that's going on, and we have to work together to amplify and let people know that this is happening, communicate this to the broader world. And then, of course, something else that's super important, and this is why it's been so great working with Ed and Lewis and Drew and other folks in IT. We need to work together as a team. There's a lot of challenges we face. Together, we can do amazing things. So let's talk about how we're going to foster these foundational liberal arts and sciences values at William & Mary. You all probably are aware of a book written by David Epstein called Range, which really talks about a lot of the things that we hold dear at William & Mary. It talks about getting people who have broad knowledge. This is what you get from the firm foundations of liberal arts and sciences, and then are able to specialize, for example, in technology, computing, bioengineering, whatnot. And it's that combination of the firm foundation of liberal arts and sciences plus this technology depth that allows people to get further faster. And for my money, there are three key characteristics of William & Mary that makes it particularly unique and valuable in this regard. And these are scale, synergy, and soul. So let's talk about them briefly. From the point of view of scale, we're really the best size university. We're large enough to offer undergrads the research intensity at an R1 university, like a place like Virginia Tech, which has a lot more people and a lot of great work going on. But we're small enough to ensure that we can have personal faculty mentorship and community to help solve real world challenges. Here's a Venn diagram that kind of shows William & Mary's unique role. So, of course, we've always had great arts and humanities and social sciences, and also great STEM. But with our school coming together, we now have more concentration on the technology dimension and the big science dimension with things like physics and applied science. And of course, we also have business programs with the Mason School of Business. And it's the combination of those two things that allows us to do both great research and great teaching. And then the final circle in the Venn diagram is our best size dimension, which means we have good student to faculty ratios, which enables our students to have real world challenges mentored with high faculty student engagement. And that's something that's very hard to find. There are not a lot of other universities that have that combination of things coming together. And this, I believe, having our school really helps to enhance William & Mary's overall value proposition for undergrads and grads. We got the synergy dimension, our liberal arts and sciences heritage, coupled with some things we're doing to make it easier to do stuff like double major and minor, enables very powerful combinations where 1 + 1 = 3. So for example, we're in the process of starting a minor in artificial intelligence, which will hopefully go online this fall. And I think that's going to be very appealing to people who are in other disciplines in arts and science or business or school of education. We're also working very diligently to create several new majors in artificial intelligence. One of them will be a shared major, a Bachelor of Science in AI, that's co-managed by computer science and data science, and a Bachelor of Arts in Applied Artificial Intelligence, which is really focusing more on prompt engineering and promptware and using AI tools without necessarily having to become a great programmer in the classic traditional way. And I think there'll be a lot of people from other disciplines around campus who will want to double major with the BA in Applied Artificial Intelligence. So this is really our way of kind of stepping up and doing new and innovative things. But of course, these are not being done in isolation. Our students in our school and other students in other schools who take our courses will help blend this computational thinking with all the other liberal arts and sciences, philosophy, biology, art, and so on, to create disciplined, creative thinkers who are ready for any challenge that the future may throw at them. And I think this is also crucially important because we're seeing more and more that employers are not necessarily looking for people with siloed point solution expertise. They're looking for interdisciplinary thinkers and agile problem solvers. Those are going to end up being the leaders in science and technology of the future. So it's really about technology savvy humanists, where human insight meets mastery of technology. And then, of course, the last piece is soul. William & Mary's commitment to excellence, integrity, and community really sets us apart. We're not just trying to build systems for technology's sake. We're really building systems that will help serve humanity. And you'll see that's a theme that I'll weave throughout this entire talk. And I think that's what makes William & Mary a special place that's not easily replicated by most other institutions of higher education. Something else I just have to mention because it's certainly what I found true because of my experience at William & Mary. Most people recognize that career success is heavily influenced by strong communication skills. There was a professor at MIT named Patrick Winson who said, your careers will be determined largely by how well you speak, how well you write, and the quality of your ideas in that order. And once again, I think that's something that is very unique to William & Mary. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute when we talk about what we're doing to help get our students prepared for the job interviews of today and tomorrow, which are quite different from the job interviews that most of us have gone through unless you graduated from college last year. Let's talk about holistic initiatives to make our students more competitive. This is a really important issue. I read an article just the other day looking at how the advent of various factors, AI being one of them, but there's other factors at play here, are really making it hard for entry-level students, the people who graduate with a degree from William & Mary, for example, to be successful entering the job market. And you can see there's been a lot of downturn in new hires, people who are coming straight out of school. This is a big deal for a while. It's going to be an even bigger deal this year and I think for the next several years because a lot of companies are sitting on their hands from a hiring point of view, thinking we can use this AI stuff to make our current workforce more productive, our current workforce knowing our domain, knowing the workflows and so on. And we don't have to hire these pesky, risky new grads because we're going to get the work done with what we have now and just make them more productive. So we've got a real challenge at William & Mary to make sure we prepare our graduates for the success in this brave new world to be able to be future-proofed. And here's a couple ways we're doing this. One thing we're doing is we're really focusing on trans-institutional learning, not just emphasizing siloed disciplines in isolation from the rest of the disciplines and the rest of the schools and departments on campus. How are we doing that? Well, one thing we're doing is we're going to be incentivizing faculty to reach across the boundaries of their departments and even their schools to collaborate on course ideas and team teach classes that cross these boundaries. And that was something I did at Vanderbilt when I was there for the last 20 years. Very, very successful, really changed the culture of the university. As I mentioned before, we're also working on majors and minors that will combine cutting edge skill sets that are needed for multiple disciplines. One thing I think is extremely important for our students to be competitive in the job market is for them not just to graduate with that firm foundation in liberal arts and humanities and long form reading and writing and so on, not just to graduate with the technical skills they're going to get from our school, but also to have the opportunity to do things like minor in business, get experience with marketing, get experience with information systems management, get experience with finance or accounting or whatever. And that will give them, again, a better chance because they'll understand the business value of the technology and the liberal arts education that they have. And hopefully they'll be able to convey that when they go through the interview process. Another important thing that we're doing, this has been done for a while, but I think we're really going to amplify it, is create pipelines to partners in government agencies. For example, there's a great national security apparatus here at Langley Air Force Base and Fort Eustis and in Norfolk. And so finding ways we can get pipelines through various means to get our students exposed to those different types of organizations, obviously companies, research labs, doing summer research with faculty either here or elsewhere. These are all things we need to do. How we're doing that is we have some resources available in capstone courses that are taught in our disciplines. For example, there's something called Engineering, Physics, and Applied Design, or EPAD. It's part of the physics department. And they have a really good capstone project course series where students get hands-on experience working in teams, building non-trivial prototypes or minimal viable products under the mentorship of people with real-world experience. That's extremely valuable when you hit the job market. Something else we're doing is working on institutionalizing internships and co-op programs to deepen our students' knowledge of domain expertise and workflows. We're setting up these relationships with our alumni network, either in the region or in Richmond or in Northern Virginia or anywhere we can find people who are C-suite level executive types in big companies or medium-sized companies who can take on our students as interns. And I think that's also going to make it much more likely that they'll have the skills needed to be successful when they hit the job market. Something else that's interesting that I only found out about a month ago, when people interview for jobs nowadays, the vast majority of the interviews take place in something called Big Interview, which is like a Zoom or Teams session where you have an avatar that asks you questions and then you record your answers on video responding to those questions. Now, unless you've been brought up to have the aspirations to be a YouTube influencer, many students are not necessarily comfortable talking to a camera. That's a learned skill. And so we're going to be working closely with the Career Center and other parts of campus to help deepen people's experience with those kinds of interview modalities. And I think it's an absolutely fascinating evolution and one that will also be influenced by AI. And of course, there's other things that we sometimes take for granted as academics, but we really shouldn't, which is making sure that our students, our people have interesting things to do outside of the classroom. I've been working very closely with Ed and others to help set up a student-led AI club, which is going to be really fun. I know you folks will have lots of interesting experiences interacting with them. We also have to find ways to have other types of enrichment, things like hackathons. And I know, again, that we're going to be working closely with you on these kinds of things. Next topic, accelerating support for and recognition of cutting-edge faculty research. One question I get asked a lot, especially by alums who graduated a while back, is what's the point of having this R1 research-centric school at William & Mary when we're really known primarily for our great undergrad teaching? One way to answer this is in fast-moving fields, computer science, data science, bioengineering, synthetic biology, and quantum computing. You need faculty doing cutting-edge research. Otherwise, the students will not get a cutting-edge education. If you have faculty that can only teach basic topics that are increasingly out of date and out of touch with what's really happening, your students will graduate with a deficiency of the skills they need to be successful in the workforce or if they go to grad school. So that's important. We got to have researchers to be able to teach good classes. The second reason this is important is it also will help us increase the visibility of William & Mary in fields where we either are or aspire to be preeminent. President Rowe is really big on preeminence. I'm really big on preeminence. There are certain places where William & Mary is already preeminent. An example would be in coastal resilience with the Batten School of Marine Sciences. We can have other places to be more preeminent as well, and research is crucially important at being preeminent. Why is that? Because lots of places are preeminent in great undergrad teaching. While we're very proud of that, there's an awful lot of other schools, either in Virginia or elsewhere, where people can take credit for being preeminent in undergrad teaching. So we need more than just the teaching. The other problem with relying solely on being preeminent in undergrad education is that the only people who really know how preeminent we are the select few who apply, get accepted, enroll, and graduate from William & Mary. In that regard, we're sort of like the Marines. We're the few, we're the proud. We don't have 30,000 people in our college at any one time. So our alumni base is small but wonderful. So we need other things, and research is a great way to get an amplification of the overall message of success. Speaking of which, our computer science and data science departments are doing gangbusters in externally funded research. We have lots of people getting prestigious awards and grants. We had the first Bachelor of Science program in data science in Virginia. We recently became a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Research, National Security Agency designation. And there's all kinds of great stuff going on between these departments. This is a visualization of some of the things they do in isolation and some of the things they do together. And I hope we can all work together with them to keep improving the infrastructure, the computer infrastructure, and so on. We have an applied science department that has been doing great work on funded interdisciplinary projects for the past 50 plus years, do a lot of incubating of interesting programs and degrees at William & Mary, like the neuroscience program, like the engineering, physics, and applied design program. Right now, we're working with them to help stand up a bioengineering undergrad degree program, which will be the first of such a degree at William & Mary. And we're very excited about this. I think it's going to help to make William & Mary a lot more attractive to a broader demographic than historically thought of coming here, which is exciting. And then we've got physics, which has been here literally for hundreds of years. They've had a PhD program since about 60 years ago, and they do a lot of great work in nuclear physics, in the engineering, physics, and applied design that we talked about. We've also been doing work on plasma and quantum materials and so on. We also want to be able to enhance research opportunities for all the departments. One thing we'll be doing very soon is setting up summer research opportunities for undergrads, where the undergrads get matched with faculty. So by matching students with faculty, they'll get a chance to do research, which will deepen their exposure to these cutting edge topics. And then we also want to be able to incentivize the faculty in order to forge what are called multi-principal investigator interdisciplinary projects that will lead to external funding success. William & Mary has been really great at doing single investigator work. We want to make it easier for them to work in larger teams. And then something else that I think is important, and where I also look forward to working with IT and the Studio for Teaching and Learning and the libraries, is creating data science and computer science courses that we can use to teach people all the way across campus, not just in our school, but beyond, in order to raise the level of expertise there. Teamwork is essential for us to punch above our weight class. We're not Virginia Tech, we're not even UVA in terms of the number of people we have, so it's going to be really important for us to work together, and I really look forward to working with you on this. So the last thing I want to talk about, what is the future of higher education going to be as a result of AI becoming increasingly prevalent in K through 12? So students coming to college are increasingly exposed to, and often, quite frankly, very well versed in, powerful AI tools. And in fact, if truth be known, some of the students we're getting coming in as recently as last year are actually much more proficient in AI than their professors. And that includes me. I spent a lot of time, as I know many of you do, as I know Ed does for sure, becoming more proficient with AI. But some of the students I work with who are first year students or rising sophomores are way, way ahead of me. And that's both amazing and scary at the same time. I believe, and I'll give you evidence for this in a second, that it's our responsibility across the board to nurture all of our students to the best of their ability and the best of their intentions and the best of their willingness to become true masters of both real foundational knowledge and fluent in AI. Why is that? Because the world is increasingly shaped by algorithms and automation. So it's not just enough to know how to use AI tools, but you have to understand when and when not to use them, why and why not to use them, and how to use them wisely. Our goal is to shape the future of direction of AI with discernment, creativity, and purpose. And that is something that can be learned. But here's a way I look at this. Here's a little fourfold chart where the x-axis is actual knowledge, what they've learned by going through their K through 12 education, measured somehow in the form of SAT scores or grades or whatever. And then the y-axis is AI fluency, which I like to also refer to as apparent knowledge. Because as you all know, it's possible to appear much more knowledgeable by using AI than you actually may be if the AI is taken away from you. If we look at that fourfold chart, there are 4 quadrants we want to talk about. The bottom left-hand quadrant is the unready. These are people who don't have strong foundational learning and are not fluent in using generative AI. Chances are they struggled in K through 12. They really weren't exposed to AI. They don't have confidence in using it. And the risk that they run is if they try to go into the knowledge workforce, as opposed to, for example, going to a trade school, which is a perfectly viable career path, they're going to get left behind because they need to come up to speed with both real knowledge and with their AI skills. There's various ways we could help those students. I'm not sure how many of those people actually come to William & Mary, but were they to come here, there are ways that we can do that with digital fluency boot camps and a lot of bridge type programs to get them up to speed. But that's not really the quadrant I want to focus on. I think much more prevalent today are people with high actual knowledge and low AI fluency. I think the bulk of our students at William & Mary fall into this category at the moment. These students are smart, they did well in high school, they actually have real knowledge on a broad range of topics, but they haven't mastered or they haven't learned to trust AI. They're great traditional learners, they're cautious adopters. They've probably been told by parents, by their teachers, don't use AI, it's cheating, it'll cause brain rot and so on. And I think the tricky part is they're going to miss opportunities to scale their skills and learn to be more competitive in the brave new world of AI. So there's lots of ways that our school, in conjunction with Steely, in conjunction with IT and the libraries, can bring these people to increase their AI fluency, to move them towards the top upper right of this quadrant. So we can have people working together in pair groups. We can have them work with the AI club. They can take our courses. We're hoping to have AI fluency courses here for everybody very soon. So that's where I think we can help. The other quadrant on the upper left-hand side, however, is really interesting. These are what we call the over-AI'd. These are people who may be very bright, but for various reasons have used AI to replace the actual hard work of learning critical thinking, interpretive skills, systems thinking, and so on. So we call them the over-AI'd. Very soon, probably by this year and beyond, a lot of the students will fall into this category. And that's not because they're not potentially very bright. It's just that they're going to have been seduced to the dark side of letting AI write their essays, letting AI write their programs, and they will have skimped on the actual hard work to get the foundational material. This is where the arts and sciences and the humanities side of William & Mary becomes so important. Because if those faculty continue to do the great job they've always done in enriching people's foundational skills in terms of reading and writing and critical thinking, we have a fighting chance to move these people who do know AI out of the over-AI'd category to the right upper quadrant. And the over-AI'd people are characterized by using AI tools very impressively, but their underlying understanding is limited. They know how to prompt well, but they may not have learned the deeper content. And they appear competent until you take the AI away and start asking questions in person or in a blue book or in some air-gapped environment where they can't rely on the large language model to fill in the gaps in their knowledge. And then it becomes clear that they're not really as well equipped intellectually and socially as we would like them to be. So the intervention strategy, as I mentioned, is to work with our arts and sciences colleagues to help enhance metacognition, to be able to reason about the output of AI, to know when it's hallucinating, make people very well versed in validating things by finding the primary sources, not just looking at summaries from a chatbot, and then really engaging them in Socratic questioning and dialogue. A lot of that can be done with augmentation from AI, but you have to have the foundation underneath it. And then the final category, which is the Gardner Magic Quadrant in the upper right-hand corner, is what I like to call the augmented. These are people who know real things and know how to use AI in order to make themselves even more effective. They will have a solid K-12 foundation. They'll be very curious. They'll use AI, but use it reflectively, not just taking it at face value, but probing a little deeper. These will be the people who will be the future leaders in our economy, in our government, in all different parts of professional lives, in our academic environments. They will help shape the AI-human interface. This is what we should aspire to at William & Mary. However, there's more to be done. Even if people come in with those skills, we have a lot to do to help shape them, to give them challenging ethical dilemmas. There's all kinds of interesting things today about copyright and personally identifiable information and trade secrets. And are those legitimately usable for training models? And what are the implications of this? A lot of this stuff is being litigated through the court system, but it's really fascinating. Getting people to think in a multimodal way, that's exciting because a lot of the new large language models are multimodal. Making people think in a systems perspective, and getting them to work effectively in teams with agentic orchestration. We're very quickly going to see the generative phase, which is really cool, give way to the agentic phase, which is going to be even cooler. So to wrap up, I believe our goal as educators is clear. We want every student to become part of this AI savvy generation. We can do that if we work together. And this is going to have to require lots of different parts of William & Mary cooperating and collaborating in ways that we may not even realize yet are important. As I mentioned before, this is not a technology play alone. This is a technology plus critical thinking plus liberal arts and sciences and humanities play. If we combine the foundational knowledge, which really comes from all parts of our university, with the sophisticated AI skills, which comes currently from my School of Computing, Data Sciences, and Physics, but hopefully will come from the School of Business, which is very much investing in this, and they also see this as the way forward. Love to get the law school, love to get the Batten School, Arts and Sciences, the School of Education working together to make sure that our students don't just face the future, but will shape it. So that is the end of my talk.